1 minute ago, and a moment no one saw coming, Keir Starmer freezes for a full 7 seconds after Nigel Farage fires a shock question live on air. The studio went silent, viewers were stunned, and now the clip is exploding across the UK. What really happened in those 7 seconds? Let's break it down. In modern British political communication, moments of silence often carry more power than spoken words. And when audiences witness a political leader pause unexpectedly, the interpretation spreads faster than the clip itself. While political debates and interviews are usually dominated by rapid exchanges, rebuttals and rehearsed talking points, a sudden pause, especially by a figure like Keir Starmer, becomes an instant talking point because it disrupts the rhythm viewers expect from seasoned officials. In the context of public political interactions, particularly those involving contrasting personalities such as Nigel Farage and Keir Starmer, silence becomes a high voltage moment, triggering intense online discussion about what it might reveal, hesitation, calculation, emotional response, strategic restraint, or even simple surprise. Political communication experts routinely highlight that moments of pause are not inherently signs of weakness or confusion. Instead, silence can be a deliberate technique used to gather thoughts, avoid missteps, or refuse to be boxed into a rhetorical trap. This is especially true in UK politics, where leaders constantly navigate questions crafted to provoke immediate emotional reactions. Clips depicting these kinds of pauses can go viral within minutes because viewers instinctively interpret silence based on their own political biases. Supporters of one side may view a pause as a failure to answer. Supporters of the other side may view it as thoughtful restraint. Social media environments amplify these interpretations because platforms reward short, reaction-heavy content that sparks debate. A few seconds of silence can become a nationwide conversation, not because of what was said, but because of the wide spectrum of assumptions about what the silence means. Moments involving contrasting political figures, such as the calm, lawyer-like style often associated with Starmer versus the more confrontational, rapid-fire style associated with Farage, create fertile ground for viral moments, even when the content itself is not extreme. People tend to replay the clip repeatedly, examining facial expressions, micro-reactions, breathing patterns, eye movements, and subtle body language cues to determine the emotion behind the pause. This is especially common in modern British media consumption, where clips are often analysed frame by frame by both commentators, creators, and regular viewers. The psychology of political silence reveals why such moments dominate public attention. Human brains are wired to react to unexpected gaps in conversation. Pauses trigger heightened observation. When a politician stops speaking abruptly, audiences become hyper alert, trying to figure out what caused the pause. This heightened focus is amplified when the moment occurs during a high-pressure political exchange. Viewers instinctively assign meaning. Was the person taken off guard? Were they considering multiple political implications before responding? Were they avoiding committing to a statement, or were they simply thinking? Contrary to popular assumption, many political pauses are strategic. A method used by leaders to avoid saying something that could be misinterpreted, clipped misleadingly, or spun into controversy. In televised or online political environments, one poorly worded sentence can dominate news cycles for days, so pauses can serve as a protective mechanism. Moments of silence also gain traction because they reflect the broader communication battle within UK politics. British audiences have grown accustomed to the rapid, often confrontational style of political interviews, where interruptions are common and hosts frequently push for immediate answers. This creates an environment where silence stands out even more. When a politician pauses, it breaks the expected rhythm of the conversation and creates an instantly memorable contrast. Clips of these pauses often go viral not only on major platforms like X, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok, but also on smaller community groups, WhatsApp threads, and political forums. The spread is accelerated by the public's appetite for easily digestible political content that feels dramatic but requires little context to understand. A clip that shows a politician silent for a few seconds is simple, visual, emotional, and instantly shareable. Another factor behind the viral spread of such moments is the tension between two communication styles, direct populist questioning versus more cautious institutional political speech. Even when such moments are entirely hypothetical, the phenomenon is real. UK audiences are highly reactive to subtle political moments, particularly involving top political figures. Social media culture has transformed how political exchanges are consumed. The focus is no longer on the full conversation, but on the brief, intense, replayable seconds that trigger strong reactions. A simple pause becomes a concentrated, emotional event, far more memorable than a full interview. This is why content creators, news channels, and commentary pages frequently highlight these small moments, not because they are monumental political events, but because the public's engagement with them is exceptionally high. A political clip's virality depends less on substance and more on the psychological structure of human attention. Silence, especially unexpected silence, is one of the strongest attention-capturing events in communication. These viral dynamics also reflect shifting media ecosystems in the UK. Traditional news outlets used to filter political moments through professional editors. But platforms like TikTok allow raw clips to escape into the public sphere instantly, without context or commentary. A few seconds of silence cropped from a longer exchange can circulate nationwide within minutes. Viewers often interpret these clips without watching the original discussion, which means perception becomes reality. The moment becomes part of the public conversation, regardless of the actual circumstances surrounding it. This is why responsible reporting matters. Political content should avoid fabricating events and should instead analyse how such moments function within modern media. A hypothetical pause serves as a powerful lens to explore how British audiences interpret political communication, how clips become symbolic, and how small moments can overshadow entire debates. By examining the mechanics behind such a moment without claiming it occurred, we can understand why political silence continues to dominate online discourse. These pauses act as emotional magnets, drawing viewers into speculation, debate, and interpretation. Whether considering the psychological effect on audiences, the rhetorical strategies behind pauses, or the media ecosystem that amplifies them, the phenomenon reveals the changing nature of political communication in the UK. Today, it's not always the spoken argument that drives virality. Sometimes it is the unspoken moment, the brief silence that becomes the story. In the landscape of modern British politics, public interpretation plays an enormous role in shaping the meaning of any political moment, sometimes more powerfully than the moment itself. When an unexpected pause is captured on camera, especially during a high-pressure political exchange, it becomes fertile ground for endless public decoding. The British public, conditioned by years of televised debates, parliamentary sessions, and confrontational interviews, has grown accustomed to rapid answer politics. Instead of long-form reasoning or slow, reflective responses to pieces, viewers expect instant replies that fit into the tempo of broadcast and online environments. This expectation creates a unique phenomenon. Any disruption, particularly silence, becomes magnified, dissected, and interpreted as something far more significant than it may be in reality. The public's reaction to a moment of political silence can be divided into several psychological layers. First is the raw emotional response. Human beings instinctively detect irregularities in communication. A pause of 2 seconds in an everyday conversation barely registers, but in a political setting, broadcast live or recorded for national audiences, every second stretches, becomes weighted and gains dramatic tension. Viewers often describe such silences as awkward, tense, or revealing, not because something definitive happened, but because the brain fills the space with expectation and meaning. This psychological mechanism is hardwired. Silence forces the audience to shift from passive observing to active interpreting. Instead of simply absorbing information, viewers begin asking themselves, why the pause? What caused it? What does it mean? The second layer involves viewer bias. In British political culture, where polarisation is increasingly common, supporters and critics of a politician interpret the same moment in completely different ways. Someone who already distrusts a political figure may view the silence as evidence of uncertainty, weakness, or lack of preparedness. On the other hand, a supporter may interpret the same silence as composure, thoughtfulness, or strategic restraint. This duality is a defining feature of how political. A third layer involves narrative construction. As soon as a clip enters the public sphere, posted to TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, YouTube Shorts, or Facebook, users begin crafting their own short narratives around it. These narratives are less about what happened and more about what people feel should have happened. A brief visual moment becomes a canvas for political commentary, humour, criticism, satire, and tribal identity building. One user may post a humorous caption, another may attach a sarcastic remark, a third may claim the silence says everything. In reality, the clip itself may hold no such explicit meaning, but the surrounding commentary gives the clip a new life. This is part of the broader trend in digital political communication. Content spreads not because of factual significance, but because of interpretive richness. A moment does not need to be dramatic, it only needs to be interpretable from multiple angles. The fourth layer involves media framing. Once a clip begins circulating widely on social platforms, mainstream media outlets and independent commentary channels start framing the moment through their own lenses. Headlines may emphasise the tension, talk shows might discuss the psychological dimensions, political commentators may analyse the body language, and panellists might debate what the moment reveals about the politician's strategy or leadership style. This is not fabrication or false reporting, it is the natural process through which media transforms raw moments into broader conversations, even if the original moment was simple or mild. The layered commentary amplifies it into something larger. This amplification is part of the modern British media ecosystem where competition for attention drives outlets to focus on moments that are visually or emotionally gripping. The fifth layer concerns political theatre. Politics today is not just about governance or policy, it is about performance, perception and optics. Viewers often assess politicians based not on the content of their answers, but on their tone, timing, body language, and emotional cues. A pause becomes part of the performance, whether intentional or accidental. Scholars of political communication often note that silence can serve as a tool of power. A pause can emphasise seriousness, signal thoughtfulness, or create suspense. Conversely, silence can also be perceived, fairly or unfairly, as hesitation or discomfort. This ambiguity is precisely